Hi, this is Informed TV. Happy Black History Month. Today we're going to go over the book. It's called The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. And um, I'd like to say um, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey was born into slavery on the eastern shore of Maryland, February 1818. And happy birthday to Frederick Douglass. He gave himself Valentine's Day to be his birthday. He picked February 14th. He said he didn't know at the actual day 19, but he picked Valentine's Day, February the 14th, because his mother called him her Valentine, her little, that he told him he was her little Valentine. So, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey was born into slavery on the eastern shore of Maryland in February 1818. Enslavers often ripped apart or fractured family relationships. Young Frederick barely knew his mother, who died when he was a young child on a distant forced labor farm. He never knew his family. So I'm going to just read a couple of pages from the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, and this was his book that he had written about himself by himself. This is a really good book. It's 122, only 122 pages, and it goes throughout his whole life. And I am going to read the first chapter, some of the first chapter of the book. This is the actual book that Frederick Douglass wrote. I was born in Tuckahoe near Hillsborough in Talbot County, Maryland. I don't know my age as I've never seen any record of my birth. In general, slaves do not know their ages any more than horses know theirs, and most masters want to keep it that way. I do not remember ever meeting a slave who could tell me his birthday. The closest most can tell is to say they were born in planting time, harvest time, cherry time, springtime, or fall time. Not knowing my birthday was a source of unhappiness to me during childhood. The white children knew their ages. I did not understand why I should not know mine. I was not allowed to ask my master any questions about it. He thought all questions from a slave demonstrated a restless spirit. My best guess is that I am 27 or 28 years old. I base this on hearing my master say, sometimes in 1835, that I was about 17. My mother was named Harriet Bailey. She was the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey. Both of them were colored people and quite dark skinned. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or grandfather. My father was a white man. That was admitted by everyone. Many people also whispered that my master was my father, but I do not know if that is true. My mother and I were separated when I was only a baby, before I was old enough to remember anything about her. It is a common custom in the part of Maryland from which I ran away to separate children and their mothers at a very early age, frequently before the child had reached his first birthday. His mother is taken away from it. She is hired out to work on a farm miles away, and the child is placed under the care of a woman who is too old to work in the fields. Why this is done, I do not know, unless it is to interfere with the natural development of affection between the mother and the child. For this is always the result. I saw my mother only 4 or 5 times after that first separation. Each visit was very brief and at night. She was hired by a Mr. Stewart who lived about 12 miles from my home. She made her journeys to see me in the night, walking the whole way after working all day. She was a field hand, and field hands are whipped if they are not in the field at sunrise. I do not remember ever seeing my mother in daylight. She would lie down with me, get me to sleep, but long before I woke up, she was gone. We had very little communication. Death soon ended her hardship and suffering, for she died when I was about 7 years old. I was not allowed to be present during her illness or at her death or burial. She was gone long before I knew anything about it, as I had never been allowed to know her as a mother. I heard the news of her death with the same emotions I would have felt at the death of a stranger. When she died, she left me without the slightest idea of who my father was. The rumor that my master was my father may or may not have been true. True or not, it doesn't matter much to me. What matters is the ugly fact that the children of slave women are slaves as well. Clearly, this is to the master's advantage. It is profitable for them to satisfy their last their lust with their slave women. By this arrangement, they become both master and father to a large number of valuable slaves. It is worth noting that these slaves, with their double relationships to their masters, suffer greater hardships than the other slaves. They are a constant offense to to their mistress. She constantly finds fault with them. She is happiest when she sees them whipped, especially when she suspects her husband of showing his mixed race children preference over his black slaves. The master frequently sells these slaves to places his white wife to please his white wife. As cruel as it may sound for a man to sell his own children, it is often the less cruel thing for him to do. For unless he does this, he must not only whip them himself, but he must stand by and see his other white son, tie up his brother, only a few shades darker than himself, and whip his bloody back. If the master says one word of disapproval, it is said that he is favoring his slave child. That makes a bad matter worse, both for himself and the slave. Every year, bringing with it many slaves of this class, it was because of the fact that one great Southern statesman predicted the downfall of slavery. Whether this prophecy ever comes true or not, it is plain that a very different looking class of people are now held in slavery from those originally brought to this country from Africa. This is Inform TV 100. We're reading the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, which was written by himself. We will continue to read a little bit of the book throughout Black History Month. Uh, this is Inform TV 100. Don't forget to click the like button. Don't forget to click the notification button. And I'm going to read a little bit more from the book, The Grift by Clay King. The downward spiral of Black Republicans from the Party of Lincoln to the cult of Trump. It's such a wonderful, informative book. Reading it, I cannot put the book down. I just want to just read it all in one day. So I'm gonna just read just little parts of the book. Please, I highly recommend you get this book. You won't regret it. Okay, so I'm in the chapter that I'm in. Clay Kane, he speaks of these interviewing uh, the grifters, and then he talks about uh, a friend of his or an ex friend of his that changed parties and became a Republican.